to start with a quick round of self-introductions, starting here with Paul. By the way, apologies, one of our panel members is still making her way. She'll join whenever she does, but we'll get started. So Paul, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Very good. Great to be here this afternoon. My name is Paul Lewis. I'm CEO and co-founder of Seismic. And can you hear me?
A bit closer.
Okay. This is tricky. Seismic, we are a partner of organizations, mostly in Europe, to help them become a force for good in the world, which really means having the right strategies, the right plans in place to turn sustainable business into commercially successful business, and then partner with them to turn those plans into reality. We're a lifelong believer that it's going to be the business community that leads us out of the polycrises that we're in, social and environmental, into a better future, more sustainable future, more prosperous future for all. And it's really conversations like this that really enable us to propagate with that work. So thanks for the invite.
Well, I share in that belief that, can you hear me? Yes? Ooh, it's very loud. I very much share in that belief that companies, the business world, is a force for good. And my name is Sophie Lambin. I'm the founder and CEO of Kite Insights, which I founded in 2012. We really are a content curation company that work with the business community, looking to galvanize urgent climate action on issues, environmental and social issues. And we do so by developing research and insights, also curating programs, debate, convening the business community together to explore the tensions and the implications of those issues on their business, and also developing learning, content, and experiences to really equip every person at work with the tools, the confidence to be actors of change in their companies. I'm also the founder of a new app called Herd, H-U-R-D. You might have seen the dance of my colleague earlier today, which is really a free platform to democratize climate action at work and give every employee in every job access to resources, tools, and a community to do more in their jobs.
Thank you. Steve.
Thank you. My name is Steve Kenzie. I'm the Executive Director of the UN Global Compact Network in the UK. Global Compact is a UN-backed corporate sustainability initiative, the foundation of which are 10 universal principles for responsible business that have been drawn from UN treaties in the areas of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. That provenance is quite powerful because in more challenging markets, those countries have signed up to these UN treaties just like we have here. And it sidesteps that argument that this is the way we do business here. You know, these are truly universal principles. To join the Global Compact, the CEO has to make a public commitment to operationalizing these principles. And our role at Country Networks is to provide programming to support the companies that have made these commitments to help them on the journey.
Wonderful, thank you. My name is Rajiv Peshavria. I had a small nonprofit called Stewardship Asia Center out in Singapore, and we look at environmental and social sustainability from a profitability standpoint. The idea that we need sustainability can only sustain itself if it is profitable. So we look at the opportunity side. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So we look at the opportunity side as to is it possible to drive superior shareholder returns by addressing the very environmental and social challenges that we are faced with today. So we do a lot of research, education, advisory in that area. I just wrote a book called Sustainability, Why ESG is Not Enough. So that's me. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'll be the moderator for today. We're going to be talking about two things only. One is, why is the current backlash against ESG and DEI? Why is it happening? Is it because it's personal? Is it because it's political? Or was this a backlash waiting to happen regardless of any personalities involved in the current global stage? What's the problem? And then we get to, so what do we need to do instead? And the second thing we want to talk about is the role of ethics, particularly with technologies such as AI, as to, are we worried where AI will take us? Is it going to take us to a better place or to a worse place because it has equal power to destroy as well as enhance life? So those are the two things that we're going to talk about, okay? So with that, let me open up the first question. I already said it. Why are we facing, if, you know, this, for decades we are talking about sustainability, environmental and social. The fact that we are going on the opposite direction of 1.5 degrees is well known. The fact that inequality is increasing is well known. And the fact that cyber vulnerability is another major threat to humanity. Why are we suddenly seeing this major backlash against ESG and DEI? Welcome. Tracy, will you very quickly introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are, and then we are already into our first question. Quick introduction.
Welcome.
Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. Apologies for being late. I was in the wrong place waiting to come to the panel. My name is Tracy Wyman. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at the Science Based Targets Initiative. We are a global climate action organization that helps companies do their part to address the climate crisis. We do that with setting standards, providing tools and guidance that help them know how much and how fast they have to decarbonize.
Very good. So, Sophie, maybe I can turn to you for the first question. Why this backlash? What's behind it?
Well, I was not at all expecting that questions, but I'm going to maybe talk about why we haven't progressed as much as we expected on what we know needs to happen when it comes to climate and sustainability. And I think, in light of the ambitions we have, in light of what we know the science tells us that needs to happen, we definitely haven't progressed as fast enough. But I think sometimes we, at risk of failing to acknowledge how much progress we have actually done, it's obviously a massive system change that needs to happen. And there's been, I think, a tremendous level of awareness of the type of transformation that is required. There's been, the cost of renewable has never been so low. The adoption of renewable has never been so high. And I think there is a great deal of progress that has been achieved that needs to be recognized. I think what you've been talking about just now about the inequality, the progress is not evenly distributed. And the inequality between the progress that's been achieved in the north and the south is a real problem.
So if everything is working so well, then why are we seeing such a big backlash, particularly in some parts of the world, against DEI, against ESG, so much so that companies are walking back on their commitments and leaving climate alliances and things like that? What is causing that?
I mean, I think the polarization of those issues and the politicization of climate is nothing new. Clearly, the coming to power of the US administration has put people in a state of complete paralysis and fear. What we see is that a lot of the good work is continuing. There's less talking about it, but there's still a lot of good work happening.
So you think it's politics. Steve, what about you? Is there any other reason other than what's being driven, say, out of politics? That's the obvious answer. Is there any other? Was this pushback in the making for a while?
Yes, insofar as, so I completely agree that massive progress has been made. Of course, there's been huge investments made in sustainability, but at the same time, there are bad actors that have been investing even more to try and slow down progress and to maintain entrenched vested interests. And so we were always going to have a difficult time. The other issue.
Sorry, if I may reframe, you're saying there's the good guys doing the good work, but there's more bad guys doing the bad work. That's what you're saying?
Well, every year, as we get closer to COP or at the climate COP, when we hear about who's there, and there's an army of oil executives that are there. Are they there to raise ambition? I suspect not. And so, that's playing out in every capital city around the world, where the lobbyists are there trying to slow down, preserve the wealth and power of old industries instead of allowing this transformation to the better society that we want. Another point, this very normative, very subjective matter of whether we've made enough progress, whether it's fast enough. We risk slipping into muddying the distinction between the world we wish we lived in and the one we actually do live in. And this is a mistake often made, I dare say, by economists. This would be true if this were true and this were true and this were, but none of those things are true. And so the science has always been crystal clear, but that doesn't mean the political will is there to actually make the change happen. So of course we know what needs to be done. The failure perhaps has been in communication, in convincing the populace of what needs to be done. And of course that's a huge failure. When charlatans can convince the population that Brexit is a good idea, that certain president is a good idea, why can't we actually persuade the population what good ideas that really are good ideas?
We definitely want to come back to the idea as to what can we do to accelerate the progress, but I want to come back to the original question. If ESG, DEI, and all the focus on people and planet was such a good thing, of course it was going to take time to make progress. Then why are we suddenly facing this massive backlash? Tracy, Science-Based Targets Initiative, you are in the thick of things when it comes to all of the, what is your view as to, was there something wrong with the way we were going about it? What's your thought?
Yeah. So at the risk of being a contrarian, I'm going to disagree with the premise, because I think part of the disinformation campaign that my esteemed fellow panelist was talking about is seeding the idea that there's a massive backlash and that companies are flying backwards. We have seen 4,000 companies validate their science-based targets in the last 18 months. And that's from a total of 8,000 over the last 10 years. So progress is accelerating. We've got more than half of the biggest companies in the world have set science-based targets. And that's continuing to prove true. So while companies may be talking less, they are doing the work. Because
the ones that want to do it are doing it.
The ones that want to do it are doing it, and I think there are a lot more who want to do it and are trying to figure out how.
Yeah. Very good. Paul, your thoughts on this?
I agree with you, Tracy. Let's remember, we're 10 years. 10 years ago, the Paris Agreement came into force. And are we having a massive backlash? No. There are certain politicians in power right now which have quite a voice. But as a movement, we're progressing. We're progressing quickly. SBTI has grown incredibly over that time. The B Corp movement has grown incredibly over time. So many other movements have as well. But we need SBTI to be 100x where you are now. We need the B Corp movement to be the same. And I think the fundamental blocker that we have is that it's the actors who have the responsibility and the agency to act. They have the money and they have the power, are not the people who are feeling the pain. I think, we talked about the global north, global south. It's the global south who are really feeling this, but then they don't have the agency that the business community in the global north have. And what we need to do, and hopefully we'll come on to it in the conversation, is create the mechanisms, enable the mechanisms to come into force, to enable those with the agency to act to the degree and the scale that we need them to. I think that's what is missing right now, that's in front of us.
So I want to share some thoughts on that as to why we are seeing, I agree, and I will come back to those who are doing it are still doing it. Absolutely no quarrel on that, but there is definitely a lot of pushback, and there's a lot of people who are now beginning to take that as an opportunity because they never believed in certain things from the very beginning. I want to make a point on that, but before that, Sophie, sounded like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to echo what you've just been saying. We were in Nairobi last week, and there is no sign of backlash at all. The whole conversation about climate is, and the solution that lie behind that is a discussion, a narrative about opportunity, prosperity, and a way out of poverty.
Okay, very good. So I guess it's very interesting to listen to you all because it's a question of which lens and where you are looking, right? I live partly in Singapore and partly in the United States, and let me tell you where I sit, I see a lot of backlash. Companies are scared. They don't want to say those words anymore. They're leaving climate alliances and things like that. DEI is a bad word in some parts of the world. And even back far away in Asia, you would think this is localized to one geography. No, there's a lot of people who are now saying, I told you so, because they never believed it in the first place. So my humble opinion, I think the way we were focusing on E, S, and G was the right thing to do. Focusing on DEI was the right thing to do. Focusing on science-based targets is absolutely the right thing to do. But I think the way we were going about it is where it went a little overboard. The moment you reduce anything to a number and overemphasize measurement and reporting, bad behavior is going to happen. There's management literature from 50 years ago that says that if you overemphasize and when the measurement itself becomes the end rather than the means, bad behavior is going to happen. Then we were using unnatural ways. We were asking people not to consume enough. Well, those people who created the problem with the overconsumption are now lecturing people not to consume. It's against human nature. We're telling companies to make less profit for purpose. Again, that's unnatural. Can we please put natural forces to work? So, a politician or two, regardless this was going to happen with the way we were going about it. That's sort of my 2 cents on that. So with that, let's talk about the ones that are doing it right. Tracy, tell us a bit about the 4,000 companies. Why are they doing it, and what can we learn from them?
Okay, so 8,000 companies that have validated science-based targets, 4,000 in the last 18 months. We always ask companies, why are you setting targets? What's driving you? And the sorts of things that we hear are our customers are asking for it, our investors are demanding that we set targets. We have ambitious leadership, and we want to show leadership and get the reputational benefits of setting targets. We hear from a lot of companies in certain jurisdictions that they are setting targets to preempt legislation that they see as coming, so they want to prepare for compliance responsibilities in the future. Some companies are starting, but not that much, to talk about risk and resilience and using setting science-based targets and the subsequent transition plans and decarbonization strategies as their way of mitigating transition risk. So those are the kinds of things that we're seeing.
You mentioned reputation. So declaring their science-based targets and working diligently towards that, does that pay off in some way financially for them?
Yeah, for companies in especially consumer-facing markets in rich countries, and there's a recent exception to that, but historically, companies have originally were setting targets for brand boost, but now things have changed a lot, and they've changed very quickly, and some of those other things are coming into play. We at SBTI, we're actually in the final stages of refreshing our theory of change, and for people who aren't familiar with that term, it just means explaining how we believe change is going to happen and what the logic is that we're applying to our strategy.
Very good.
So what are we going to do to drive change, and why do we think it will work? And to do that, we've done a ton of research on why companies set targets and where we think the levers will be. And one of the things that came out of that is reputation is going to continue to be a lever for some companies in some places, but it's maybe not the strongest one.
70 to 90% of corporate value now sits in intangibles like goodwill, reputation, the ability to innovate. So absolutely, your research is spot on that. Steve, in the good work, you said you agreed with Sophie saying lots of good progress has been made, etc. What are you seeing in terms of what do we need to do more of? Looking at the good examples, what do we need to do more of to accelerate?
I just want to add on to Tracy's point, if I may. It's not just reputation with consumers and investors that's important. I think in the competition for talent, reputation is critical. And in that competition, your commitment to sustainability needs to be authentic. And there's few things that demonstrate an authentic commitment like a science-based target. So I think that that's a really key consideration in attracting the best talent is a direct line to the bottom line for a company. It's a recurring theme around here. I keep seeing the KPMG literature around just demonstrating the commercial applicability, relevance of sustainability, and that's certainly the angle that we have been pursuing forever. There's an obvious moral case, and it'd be great if everybody working in a company just was able to do the right thing all the time, but often we need to demonstrate commercial benefit. I believe the commercial benefit is there for everything that we're advocating. DEI, science-based targets, action on waste, on climate, on nature. It's not always that obvious, it requires just a little bit of thought, but there's a business case for this entire agenda. Part of the problem is that we've created a mindset, and it's being driven, I think, to some extent by those opposing this agenda, where we somehow treat ESG differently from all the other risks and opportunities that a business faces. And that's a really, really reckless way forward. Good management looks at the risks and opportunities facing a business, and whether that risk is reputational damage from having child labor in your supply chain, or risk from the next big storm blowing the roof off your warehouse, or risk from just being caught out because your emissions for the last 20 years have been reckless. These are risks and opportunities that don't need an ESG label. Good management is looking at these, and they're dealing with them. And I think if we could just get back to that risk and opportunity orientation in this space, then every manager, whether they're in finance or marketing or human resources, is going to look at this stuff in a different way and just start dealing with it like a professional.
Thank you. I mean, we are all here attending this conference, and everything you said probably is preaching to the choir, because here everybody believes in what you said. The question is, why aren't more people doing it? To that, I want to come to both of you. Sophie, you first. You just mentioned you came back from Nairobi. What did you see in Nairobi that gave you so much hope? Tell us a story that we all can feel a little better amidst all the negative stuff we see. So please.
Well, I mean, it's usually stories of people.
Yes, please.
I think.
If you could summarize it for us.
I don't have a story ready to tell you just now, but I think to your question about what we need more of, I think we need to empower people to do more in the context of their work. And we see, people talk about net zero transformation. Ultimately, it's people at the front line of their job that are going to lead the transformation. And that's where we see the biggest gap. People, there is people at work that tell us they desire to act, they want to act on climate at work, but they don't know where to start. We've also seen companies making bold statements, but being quite hesitant about channeling that energy. I heard leaders saying, but what if everyone started coming up with ideas? And to the point about reputation, I think it's a huge reputational risk if you don't channel that energy. It's also a huge missed opportunity if you don't channel this energy. And to your question about stories, I think there's loads of stories of innovation, of people looking at opportunities to innovate, to transform their functions. And that's where I think there's the biggest opportunity. There's 3.5 billion people at work. We know that more than 80% of people are willing to act on it. And yet there is not enough investment and real focus on how to equip people to do what they can do in their functions.
Very good. Thank you. Paul.
Well, I'd love to pick up on those 2 points, Sophie. You talk about investment and people. We need to remember that Gen Zs and millennials together make up the vast majority of the workplace today, the vast majority. Millennials, nearly 50% of them, actively pressure the companies they work for to do more in the climate agenda. Gen Zs go further. Nearly 2/3 of them will take a pay cut in order to work for an organization that is fighting the climate emergency. So leaders are now having to really listen to what their workforce are saying. And if you think about that in investment terms, we recently held a working session for our private equity community. We had 700 billion sterling asset under management in the room. Conclusively, the outcome was that doing the right thing delivers better shareholder return. A recent EY study concluded that the practice of very high ESG performance yields a 3% premium on shareholder return. So they're two very compelling forces, getting better shareholder return and the ability to recruit better people, and retain them, I mean, do we need a better business case?
There you go. Exactly. To build on that, our research spanning 25 countries, we looked at companies that were actually doing something good. They were making money by addressing environmental or social challenges, something we call steward leadership, the genuine desire and persistence to create a collective better future for shareholders, society, future generations, and the environment. And it turns out there are companies who've been making money with sustainability first strategies for 300 years. And by the way, it also turns out that if you focus on steward leadership, your business runs for hundreds of years. Otherwise, the average age of a business is only 18 years. The problem is, it's a choice. It's a choice to say, yes, I want to be rich, famous, and powerful, but I want to be rich, famous, and powerful by making the world a better place. And there are companies that are doing it. Faber-Castell, the pencil maker in Germany for 270 years of profitable growth, has been doing that from day one. Long before such things were the laws in Germany, they provided housing and health insurance to employees. In fact, what they did became the law in Germany. There is a doctor in India that is putting together a chain of hospitals in villages and rural areas so that people don't die during the Golden Mile. Otherwise, if you had a heart attack and you live in a tier 3 city in India, you had to drive 6 hours to get to a super specialty hospital. Now these are 23 hospitals going up to 50, and they are already EBITDA positive, even though they serve the poorest of society, and 90% of care is provided cashless. And they still make money. How, you would think? Because they employ an army of people that help these semi-literate people find the insurance repayments from the government schemes. So there are people who are doing it, and that's what we can learn from some more. And I think I agree with you that, it's not that progress, Sophie, is not happening. It is happening, but it's happening. Fewer people are making that choice. We just need to have more people make that choice. So thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your thoughts on that. I want to switch gears now to the other topic, which is this idea of ethics and integrity, and in particular, the use of technology. So starting with you, Tracy, are you at all concerned? Because a technology like AI has equal power to destruct as well as enhance life. Are you at all worried about, if at all, what is it, that the pitfalls of companies using technology in a mindless way to maximize profits at any cost, neglecting what society might need in the future? Are there any concerns around that at all?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm less concerned about the technology itself and more about the slow pace of development of guardrails to manage it. Also, of course, AI in particular has a huge energy consumption, and so we have to think about that. But we are seeing many, many innovative uses, like absolutely in health, in science. I was talking to a molecular biologist yesterday, and he said AI has made it possible for us to map and understand the human genome in ways that we never could have dreamed of even 10 years ago. And so, and we know that there are going to be solutions to the climate crisis that are addressed with all different kinds of technology. So I think it really is about stepping back, understanding where the risks are, and then collectively as humanity, as governments, creating some guardrails around that so that we can, mitigate those risks.
Your thoughts on, are you worried at all about at least some people using new technologies mindlessly at the cost of planet and people, if at all? Any concerns?
Of course. It's always the case, isn't it? With any technology, there's an opportunity to do good with it or do bad with it. I think for me, it's as Tracy mentioned, it's we need more technology to help solve where we are compared to where we want to be. Of course, without more technology development, we're going to get nowhere near keeping within 1.5 degrees. So we need more of it. We need to propagate it, support it, encourage it, invest in it, at the same time as putting in guardrails to make sure that bad actors can't do bad things with it. I think that the trick here is, and we're seeing it very cleanly, that we need the technology, but we need the application of that technology in a very human way so that all of us, as emotional, intelligent beings, can actually pick it up and run with it in the way that it's actually going to create the change that we need. At Seismic, our number one value is human first. And so we really harness and want to harness more of AI, but without that human application, it's not going to deliver what we need to.
Both of you said something about we need guardrails to prevent the bad actors from misusing technology. Otherwise, technology in itself is actually a very good thing. And I agree with that second part. So besides guardrails, which will minimize harm, which the possible bad guys can do, is there anything else that needs to happen? Before I turn to my friends on this side of the panel.
We need to create opportunities for solutions and really open the doors. So we've been talking at SBTI about data, and with our partners, not just SBTI, but with our partner organizations. There's a lot of data out there about how companies are decarbonizing. How can we work together, and how can we bring other players who are much smarter than we are and better at technology to the table to try to figure out how to draw solutions out of all of that data? It's there, right? We know the solutions are there.
Okay.
Maybe I'll just jump in. I think we can't wish the bad actors away, but I would be inclined to say we really need to embrace it with caution rather than fear. I see huge opportunities in the space in which I work when it comes to education, how much it can accelerate access to education, personalize the journeys so that it's much more efficient experience for people. I think we also really need to deepen understanding of the unintended consequences of AI. Last week we ran a debate which was formulated as AI is the new plastic, which really tested the boundaries of tension of what AI, plastic was a huge source of solution at the time when it came, but the lack of attention and intention of how we used it made that it became a nuisance. So I think we need to apply the same level of scrutiny and really deepening understanding of the tension and not be overly seduced by it. But equally, I think the opportunities are really exciting even from an environmental and social perspective. I would maybe just say that the one area that I'm most scared about is the inequality of access. You can see how AI, talking about Nairobi last week, how AI, the lack of access to AI can really entrench and exacerbate divides and injustice, and women obviously are very vulnerable in their ability or lack of ability to contribute and use AI.
It's fun, it's just a fun fact. I want to come back to the follow-up question with you in a second. But there's a handful of rich men in the world, a handful of rich men who own more wealth than all the women of Africa put together. Can you guess how many? How many rich men? Anybody have a guess? How many rich men? Yes, sir. One? No. There are 600 million women in Africa, and there are a handful of men, it's more than one, who own more wealth than all 600. Sorry. Shout it out. Sorry?
5.
No, not 5. Anyone else? It's 22. 22 rich men, and yes, they're all men, own more money than all of the women in Africa. But anyway, 30 seconds on the debate that you talked about, AI is the new plastic. What was the final outcome? Quick, 30 seconds on that.
Well, the four sides won the argument, but I think they had a lot of people planted in the audience.
Four side meaning AI is the new plastic?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
And the against side saying, no, it's not actually plastic, it's electricity. So it was, it was an hour of debate, but all this to say, I think, is to bring that rigor of scrutiny to really understand those tensions and the unintended consequences is required.
Got you. Your thoughts? Are you concerned about this whole idea of ethics and integrity, particularly with the use of technology? And if anything, what needs to be?
My concerns are more aligned with Sophie's, that it's social rather than environmental. The environmental risks are not new. We already need to decarbonize the grid, so that will come along. We talk about just transition in the climate context. We aren't talking about it enough in the AI context. I read an article a couple weeks ago, some tech bro going on about the power of AI, and it's going to eliminate entry-level jobs. Well, the implications of that are so stupid that it's staggering. Everybody needs a first job, so it's going to maybe change those jobs. But what does that mean? How are you ever going to get anybody into the next level if there isn't a first level for them to start? So we definitely need to think about how we're rolling this out in a way that is constructive. And we need the guidelines, the guardrails, to ensure that we talk a lot about the productivity gains that AI has the potential to bring. And to your point, if all of those productivity gains just flow up to those 22 guys, this is a massive failure. So we need a just transition to AI where people find new ways of employment, where wealth is distributed in a way that is not going to undermine society and increase inequality. So I think definitely the social impacts of AI that are being neglected, and I think we really need to get focused there.
And thank you for that. And it is the social issues that I was after. I think, just to add to that, I mean, everywhere people say we need guardrails. Go back 15 years when there were no data protection laws. And look how much harm certain corporate players and certain individuals inflicted on humanity, taking advantage of the fact that there was no laws. And they were not doing anything wrong per se by the law, or even by accepted norms of society, because nobody knew what to do with data, in personal data in those days. And then the laws were written. Similarly, AI laws will probably be written in the next 5 to 10 years. Today, the powers that be, the geniuses who have AI intelligence and the capital to go behind it, they are making choices today. Unfortunately, in my humble opinion, they are looking at only two things. Is what I'm about to do wrong by law? No, it's not. Is it wrong by accepted norms of society today? No, it's not. Then it's a profitable business, let's do it. Not enough in today's day and age. What we need over and above that narrow definition of integrity, because to most people, integrity is, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong by society or by law. But just because you didn't lie doesn't mean you told the truth. What we need is ethical integrity. Business education needs to change. That, what is the meaning of making decisions with ethical integrity? It's not wrong by law. It's not wrong by today's knowledge of society. But if I do it, are there any negative consequences down the road for society? They have to dive into their ethical conscience and make those decisions. For example, as an AI genius, I have two profitable models. One is to produce autonomous weapons of mass destruction, much more powerful than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If I do so, I am a patriot. I will have no boots of my country's soldiers on the ground, so I'm hailed as a patriot, and I make a lot of money. Or should I use my AI genius to produce artificial limbs for amputees? Those are the kind of choices. I'm not saying right or wrong here, but those are the kind of questions that ethical integrity asks. And none of our business school curricula or management curricula talks about these things anymore. Because the ethics classes you take at Harvard all talk about, oh, you are in this dilemma, what would you do? And in the classroom, everybody gives the right answer. No, we need to get deeper into this. We need to appeal to the conscience of people so that more people wake up to the idea. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that anyway. So with our time fast approaching, I'm going to come back to all of you with one last question. But before that, I'm going to open it to the floor for some questions because we have time. And the last question is going to be, if there is one thing that you would like to see changed, just one. I know many things need to change for us to accelerate the impact on both environment and society. But if there's one favorite that you have that you think will make the maximum difference, what will that be? So think about your answer. In the meanwhile, I'm going to take 1 or 2 questions. Who has a question? I'll bring the mic to you. Anybody have a question for any of us? Or you want to share something? Going once? Yes, sir.
Maybe for Steve and Tracy, as 2 organizations that are helping businesses become a force for good, what do you see standing in the way of taking all the great progress that you've made and accelerating it 10x?
Thank you.
I need a second to think about it. So what's standing in the way of accelerating SBTI's progress 10x? So that would be 80,000 companies with validated science-based targets. So we're working on that with the next iteration of the Corporate Net Zero Standard, which is trying to address, in particular, companies' challenges with Scope 3, which means we hope they'll be able to bring their supply chains along. Now, the NHS alone has 95,000 suppliers. So if those guys all set targets, there we go, we've 10x'd. But those aren't necessarily the companies we need, right? We need the highest intensity industries to sign on. I believe, and this gets back to the theory of change, right? We're trying to figure it out, but I believe we need policy signals and even pre-policy, but policy signals that say, hey guys, we're still going to give voluntary mechanisms a chance. But if you don't step up, policy is coming. And if we saw that, we would see the other half of the biggest companies in the world setting targets and following through with them with transition plans, and our world would decarbonize.
Sustainability in many companies is still quite siloed. So I think there's a big education challenge. I fervently believe there is a business case, as I said earlier, but not everybody believes that. And often in the finance department, this is a compliance issue. It's a tick box. We just need to get this done without seeing the opportunity side. So I think there's a lot of education, as Rajiv has already pointed out. We're the choir, so everybody's, you guys have already understanding this. It's how do we get these messages out to a wider constituency that are making important decisions, to get them to understand, just to reevaluate what are the most pressing issues. When we have the two quite significant political parties in this country that are taking a stance that climate change isn't something that requires urgent action. One in the last election talking about proportionate action on climate. What does that mean when the crisis is so severe? So those signals are undermining progress and undermining political will for change. So I think we do need to work on education.
Very good. So any other questions? Maybe you have time for one more. Yes.
Hiya, I'm Mindy from Energized Futures. I had a question around Gen Z. So I think you were saying, you have to really go close here. Okay. So Gen Z obviously has such immense power, but potentially doesn't have the finances yet. So I just love to hear your thoughts as to what you think the impact will be once Gen Z gets the capital to be able to back up their passion, and how we, as perhaps an older generation, can support that to happen a bit sooner and accelerate that progress.
Maybe Paul, you'll take that?
I think that's the answer to the previous question, in a way. 70 trillion US dollars are being transferred from the baby boomer generation to Gen Z over the next 20 years. In fact, we're in the 20 years already. That's a huge transfer of private wealth. Once that happens, and as that's happening, we're going to see consumers have a completely different value set. And let's maybe reframe, not consumers, but citizens, as John Alexander would say. And these are the people that are buying from organizations. These are the people that are working in organizations and investing in organizations. And leaders then have no option. They are going to be enlightened whether they like it or not, and then they're going to go and get a science-based target. Then they're going to become a true force for good. So how do we speed that up? Don't have an easy answer to that, but I'm pretty excited about the wealth transfer getting into a more purposeful generation.
Very good. So we're running out of time, so I'm going to start with you, Tracy, and work this way. If there's one thing you would like to see change that you think will have make a bigger difference than anything else in accelerating our progress, what's that one change you would like to see?
So I think I answered already with policy signals, but if I can't have policy signals, then I want to have market signals, and I think market signals are coming.
Okay, so which one do you want more, Tracy?
Oh, policy.
Policy, okay, very good. Paul?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm inspired by a client of ours, Patagonia. Patagonia make it no option, and the change I want to see is that the sustainable option becomes the easy, the best, the default option. In fact, the option you have no understanding that you're making, so that we end up in a world where the only option we are enabled to make or can make is the sustainable option.
Sophie?
I would want to give employees at work the agency to be agent of change in their company. And I think we need to do this in a way where we don't tell them, we just create the condition for them to take action. And we sometimes think that it is people that have certain values or belief that take action. It is really action that creates a condition for more actions and solidifies belief and values. So it's about giving people the opportunities, the chance to explore, to take action, and that to add up to be more than sum of its part, and to put pressure on businesses and their leaders to do more.
And I guess the best way to put pressure is to lead by example and be the change you want to see. So that others, very good.
I've been skirting around this issue, I think, through this whole session. I think I'd like to see a more universal truth. We're still debating whether climate change is even happening in many quarters, instead of the debate that we should be having is how are we going to fix this problem? And that's true across this whole agenda. So there once was a time before the internet, maybe before so much cable news, when there was a little bit more alignment on a shared reality, and we were able to have these debates in a different way. Now, just getting at the truth has become so difficult. People are disengaging and just giving up, and that's leading to trouble.
Very good. Thank you very much. If there's one wish I had, it would be, when we started researching this idea of doing well by doing good, is it possible to make money by addressing environmental or social challenges? We studied 100 companies, and we wrote a book on that. Since then, we are now tracking 600 companies, and every day we get more stories that we are writing 2 more books and making a film on it. So if there's one wish I had, is to change education in such a way that people realize that, yes, you don't have to give up personal interest of wanting to be rich, famous, and powerful. But if you be rich, famous, and powerful by making the world a better place, your success is going to be longer lasting, and your children are going to be proud of you. I wish we could teach that at schools, at colleges, around the world, that there is a better way to be selfish. So anyway, with that, I want to thank all of you, but before you go, I want to show you something. At the end of the day, the challenge that we all are facing, environmental and social sustainability, needs innovation, innovation, innovation. Profitable solutions for human and environmental problems is going to save the day, right? We need profitable solutions because sustainability cannot be sustainable without profit. And this innovation, we need the kind of innovation. You remember a few years ago, we used to pay $200 a minute to call Asia, and now a voice is free. That's the kind of innovation we need. We need not pass the cost of sustainable aviation fuel to passengers like me. They have to innovate. So this innovation is going to come from people like you and me. This innovation is going to come from the crowd. So what we've done is, we've created the world's biggest online community called stewardshipcommons.com, totally free. If you have any ideas of how to solve an environmental or a social issue profitably, become a contributor. It's totally free. You just fill up a form and we'll check you out, and then you are free to post a video, audio, article as many times as you want. It's totally free. And if you want to just consume the information, just become a member. Again, it's free. All you need to do is enter your email address. I'd urge you to please take out your phones and take this QR code, and not only join the platform because it's us who's going to innovate. We promise it will always be free. And also please share it with as many friends and family, because once all of us get together and start innovating, that is when we will find real solutions, profitable solutions for people and planet. Thank you very much, and thank you all of you.